thanks so much for inviting me here, rabbis. And thank you all for coming out on a cold, wet night downtown to learn Torah, to be inspired. And I'm inspired by you for coming out to learn this topic. It's not like everybody's favorite topic, even though I am passionate about it. And also thanks to Adina for coming. Adina is my longest Chicago friend. We've been friends since high school, and she's also my mentor. She is the one who trained me in doing Chaver Kadisha, and she came out to hear this class too. So thanks for coming and being here. Okay, so before we start, we're going to do some introductions. I want to briefly tell you about me, and then we'll get into it. So you know that I'm a race car driver by trade. Oh, okay, great question. I'm going to say Chaver Kadisha. So first of all, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I've been living in Chicago since I got married 26 years ago. I was in my undergrad when we got married. I got married at young, 19.
What high school did you go to?
I actually went to high school here. I went to Hannah-Sachs. Yeah. Okay, so we'll catch up later. So I was still in school, and I finished up when I graduated when I was pregnant with my second child, at which point I became a professional stay-at-home mom. And that's what I've done ever since. We are blessed with 6 children. They range in age from 25 down to 8. And also this year, I became a grandmother. We became grandparents. And that's also a very wonderful thing. I wish it all for you one day. It's wonderful. Early on, it was over 20 years ago, I got involved with the Chaver Kadisha. The Chaver Kadisha, translated, Chavra means a society, and Kadisha means holy or sacred. And the Chaver Kadisha is the organization. It's a universal name for the organization. No matter where you go, if there's a Jewish community, you will hear the term Chaver Kadisha. It means the same thing. Every Chaver Kadisha does the same thing, takes care of Jewish bodies, prepares them for burial. That's what we do. So over 20 years ago, I had the opportunity to actually become an employee of the Chaver Kadisha. There's exactly one employee. It's me. And it was great because I was a stay-at-home mom and money was tight, and I was able to do secretarial and paperwork and office management and things like that they needed. But I always kind of felt like something was missing because I was working for the Chaver Kadisha, and I knew that it was a special organization, but I was like not doing the Chaver Kadisha. I was kind of just like doing all the other stuff. I was facilitating it, I was helping it run, but I wasn't doing it. So about 8 years ago, I got involved. It happened because my husband's grandmother passed away, and I wanted to be there. I wanted to be a part of it. So I called my parents, my mother. She has been a volunteer for the Chaver Kadisha over 30 years, probably 40 years. She still does it. And I called her up and I said, what do you think? Like, this would be the first time that I would be with a person who's not alive. Should I do it? They'll let me come and be a part of it in some form. And she said to me, this is not the one to start. You don't start on somebody that you love. But at the end of it, there's an opportunity to ask for forgiveness. And you can go in there and you can ask them if you can just go in and be a part of that. So I called Adina, and Adina said I could do that. And I did. That was the first time I'd been a part of it. And after that, I felt like, okay, I'm ready to get involved in this mitzvah. You need to be at the right time in your life in order to do it. You have to have a sense of maturity in your emotional maturity. You have to have flexibility. You have to be able to get out of the house. People don't die on a schedule. So you have to kind of be able to get out of the house when you need to. And of course, nobody dies when it's convenient. So about eight years ago, I became a volunteer for the Chaver Kadisha as well as an employee of the Chaver Kadisha. Also, over the years, that job became more of a leadership role, and I am one of the heads of the Chaver Kadisha, making things run smoothly, and also a volunteer. Okay, so that's me. That's a little bit about the Chaver Kadisha. We're going to get back to it later. Okay, so now let's start. There's approximately 7.9 billion people in this world. And everybody has their own circumstance, their own history, their own makeup. Everybody's different, no matter where you live. You live around the globe, right? Everybody's different cultures, different everything. But we all share 2 things. Every single person in this world who has ever lived and whoever will live has been born, and every single person will die. So being born, people like to talk about that. That's like, that's a happy time. But dying, nobody really likes to talk about that too much. For numerous reasons. It's painful. Nobody actually knows what's going to happen. And so the questions are better than the answers. So we kind of avoid it. But since we know that it will happen to every single person, it behooves us to speak about it and learn a little bit about what it is. And thank God we've all made it to adulthood. And so chances are you've experienced a loss of somebody either in your family or somebody who's close to you. And I'm sure there's questions, and yeah, just behooves us to delve into it a little bit. So Judaism has a stunning clarity on what happens in death, and that's where we're gonna go. But before we can do that, we need to actually back up. Before we can find out what happens when you die, we have to actually explore who you are. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of time and just think, if you are introducing yourselves to me, I just introduced myself to you. If you'd be introducing yourselves to me, how would you introduce yourself? Just think. So chances are you've come up with your occupation or how you spend your time. You would tell me you're an accountant, you're a businessman, you're a student, you're an artist, you like to draw, those kinds of things, how you spend your time. Chances are you also would tell me who you are vis-a-vis somebody else, your relationship, like I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a friend. So who you are relationship-wise. And also probably you identify yourself as like who you are when you look in the mirror, what you look like. You know, like you always look at yourself, you know who you are, and like that's me. That's me. So I want to challenge those. So your occupation, how you spend your time, what happens when you grow up and you retire and now you're no longer a nurse, but you're just not a nurse anymore, and now you don't do that. So are you still you inside? I'm sure all of you would say, yeah, you're still you. You just don't do what you used to do anymore, right? Or when COVID happened and everybody's jobs kind of shut down or shifted, and like, oh wait, but I'm the person who goes to the office all the time. That's how I spend my time. That's what I do. But wait, I don't. Okay, that now I'm a person who doesn't go to the office all the time, but I'm still me. My inside, my core, and at my essence, I'm still me. So I think we can agree that probably that's not the essence of who you are. It does explain a little bit of how you spend your time and things that interest you, but it wouldn't be your core, your essence. And then relationships, right? So relationships change. I said I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I'll be honest that my kids are out of the house. I'm a grandmother. Am I still a stay-at-home mom? I mean, I'm still a mom, but as you get older and you become an empty nester, that kind of changes. Or God forbid, your parents pass away and you're not really that son and daughter anymore. Or maybe somebody gets divorced and they're not that wife or that husband anymore. Friends change, communities change. So again, it's a part of you, but it's not you. It's not your core. It's not your essence. And then, of course, physically, that also can change, right? Like you can dye your hair a different color. You can gain weight. You can lose weight. Even worse, sometimes somebody maybe could be in a car accident and they become an amputee, or they're going through treatment and they lose their hair and now they look totally different. But like, hey, wait, it's still me. I'm still me. I know I look different, but it's still me. I'm right here. I'm inside. So who is that? And when I introduced myself to you, I even said, I told you what I do with my time, and I told you who I am vis-a-vis other people. I'm a mom and I'm a grandmother and I'm a wife. I told you all that. But what I didn't tell you is that when I see the ocean, I'm filled with awe, and that I struggle sometimes to be happy for other people. And I didn't tell you that a stirring melody makes me cry. And I didn't tell you how much I love my children and would kill for them. I didn't tell you these things, but now that I just did, do you feel like you know me better than when I just told you before about who I am? What's that? What is that? What's that inner feeling? Our conscience, our choices, our decisions that we make, where we go to battle. What's that? Our potential. So that would be our neshama, loosely translated as soul. It's a divine essence. It's a holy part of God that's in our bodies. In order to learn more about that, we need to go back to when man was created. So we go back to Genesis, and let's see what it has to say there. These are the words in Hebrew, then I'll translate it into English. Vayitzer Hashem Elokim es ha'adam afar min ha'adama, v'yipach ba'apav nishmas chayim, Vayihi ha'adam lenefesh chaya. Hashem formed the human from the soil, blowing into his nostrils the breath of life. The human became a living being. So he created man, he created the body, but it was just the body. And only once he blew from himself the air into his nostrils did it become a living being. For instance, if you take a balloon and you have a limp balloon, it's a balloon, it's still a balloon. But then I blow from my life into the balloon, and now that balloon is free to go. It's that idea. So our neshama, our divine essence, the peace of God, it's spiritual, it's what makes us alive. For example, think of the most powerful car motor that you can imagine, and you take that car motor, super powered car motor, and you go stick it on the Dan Ryan, and you say, go. It's not going to go. But it has so much power. It's the life of a car. It's right there, but it can't move. That motor, that's our neshama. That neshama is what drives us, but we can't be here. We're in a physical world. So we need a physical body, just like that motor needs to have a metal frame and rubber tires, and it needs to be able to gas, it needs to go. It needs to have all those outer things in order for the motor to work. So when Hashem created man, he made it that we're going to be living in this physical world. We are our neshama, which we just established, that that's who we really are, and we were put into a physical body. That physical body and us, our neshama, is the closest relationship that we will ever have in our entire lives. It's the most intimate relationship. We will never be able to get rid of it until the day that we die. We were born with it, and we will have it forever and never be able to do anything without it. So the most important thing that you need to take away from tonight is that you don't have a soul. You are a soul, and you have a body. And working on that premise, now we're going to go back to our original question about what happens when you die. So what is death? Again, another pasuk that we're going to read in Hebrew. It's from Koheles, which in English is Ecclesiastes. Say that right? Okay.
It's one of those real helpful translations.
I know.
It's like phylacteries. Oh, why did you say
Yeah, okay, so we'll just call it Koheles.
Tabernacle.
Okay, so the words from there. Vayashov ha'afar al ha'aretz kishahaya, v'haruach tashuv el ha'elokim asher nesana. And the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. That's what's going to happen when we die. Physical things die. Spiritual things never do. So we just said that we are a spiritual being. That's who we really are. Our body is going to die. At the time of death, the body and the soul separate. The body dies, but we, the real we, will live forever. The only problem is that we can't live here in this physical world without our body. So we're alive, but we're stuck. We can't be here anymore. So logic says we need to go to a place where souls can live. And so that's the Olam HaNeshamos, that's the world of souls. We need to go to a spiritual world. If we're going to live forever, we need to be in a spiritual world. We don't have the physical ability to be here anymore. But make no doubt that you will live forever. There's no such thing as death for real. You will live eternally. So the saying rest in peace, that's not like a Jewish concept because we don't have that. It's not just like, okay, well, when I'm dead, it's like turning off the switch. It's over. It's never over. All your feelings, your choices, your conscience, your emotions, all that we just said is really you. It's you. It's you forever. Whatever you built up yourself to be, however you built your eternity, you will be forever. Because once your body dies, you don't have any physical manifestation anymore of you. You can't help yourself anymore. You can't go to battle anymore. It's just who you've made yourself, and now you're you forever, and you're going to go live in the world of the souls, in the spiritual realm. So this isn't a class in the afterlife, but we do have to speak a bit about it because it's fundamental. So we kind of need to know what we're talking about here. Hollywood has made it very, they've dramatized what the afterlife is like, heaven and hell, and what happens. But you can be sure that it's not going to be that way. So one way that I heard it explained, which really speaks to me and goes along with this very clearly, is that when a person dies and that body and soul separate, your soul, meaning you, have just an intense clarity of the implications of how you've lived your life. You can see it all in front of you. And if you've lived your life well, and you've gone to battle every day, and you've demanded of yourself, and you've made good choices, and you've listened to your conscience, and you've tried to be the best you that you can be, at that moment of the separation, when you see what your life was really like in front of you, that intense clarity that you have will give you such a feeling of euphoria, of satisfaction, and pride. That is your heaven. That is your eternity that you just built for yourself. We think it's reward and punishment. It's really just consequence. However you've lived your life, your consequence will be what your afterlife, that's what will be. And if you've lived your life not that way, and you've made poor choices, and you didn't pay attention, and you got very much involved here in this physical world, and just kind of were lazy and let things go, that feeling when you have complete clarity in front of you, that feeling of embarrassment and shame and regret, that's it. That's your hell. That's what you're going to live with. That's what it is forever. And that is why we say that you're building your eternity forever, and why it matters now to learn about this. Okay. We also have a concept of the resurrection of the dead. It sounds very Christian when we say it, even though it really is a Jewish concept. And that also is not what it looks like in Hollywood when you have like zombies rising from the grave. That's not it either. But it's one of our 13 principles of faith that this is going to happen. We can't really picture it. We're like, what does that even mean? How could it be a principle? And what is that? I don't get it. But if you think about it, we actually see it all the time around us. We've just never seen it with people. But if you take a seed and you bury a seed in the ground, what happens to it? It decomposes. It becomes one with the earth, and then it sprouts, and new life is formed. And we're told that's a model for what will happen in the time of Techiyas Amesim, it's called, when the dead they get joined again with their neshama. So that body is necessary. It's necessary to get, we say buried in the ground, but really we're saying planted in the ground. We need to plant the body for the future. So this will be joined again with our neshama, with ourselves, in some mystical sort of a way that we've never seen, and we don't really totally understand exactly what's going to be. Okay. All of this leads up to the Jewish burial laws and tradition. So we have 3 principles of how to care for the body, and it's the reasons of why we do these things. So the first one would be respect. It's respect for the body. We were nothing without our body. We cannot accomplish anything. We were put here in this world for whatever purpose we need to do to accomplish and be the best us that we can be. And we cannot do that, as we've said before, without our bodies. So we have an element of hakaras hatov, of appreciation for our bodies, that it has allowed us to earn that eternity and be who we are. But even more than that is that the peace of God that's housed inside of our bodies, who we are, we're holy. And so because of that, our body has kept us safe and protected and taken care of us. And because the holiness is housed within us, so then just because of that, our bodies become holy as well. And so it deserves all the respect. If you have a Torah scroll in the synagogue, then it's kept in the ark, in the aron, and then that aron then has innate holiness as well. So that's how we look at it. It is a case of something holy, therefore it becomes holy too. We also have to have sensitivity to the soul, because as we said, we don't die. The soul is there. And actually, at that moment of separation, I mean, I'm sure you guys have said goodbye to people that you've loved before, and that moment of saying goodbye can linger, and it's really hard to part. And that's what happens sort of in death, is that, again, we said this is your most intimate partner, your closest relationship, and there's the separation, but there's almost like an obsession of the neshama with the body, and it's hard to leave. So, and remember, once it's just a neshama with no body, you can't do anything. You can't help. You can't make sure that your body is going to be taken care of. So we call this a chesed shel emes, which means it's the greatest kindness that can never be repaid, because you're helping the person who cannot help themselves ever, and they can never even say thank you to you. And they're there. So that separation happens. The neshama can hear and see and knows exactly what's going on. at that time. We can't interact with it, we can't see it, but we know it's there. And only once the body gets buried is the neshama free to go off and go on to its next steps, its next stages of what's going to happen. So we have to treat the body very sensitively because we're actually treating the person, the neshama, very sensitively as they're watching, and they can't help. And they care very much about what happens to the body. Even if when they're alive, they think that they don't and they're not going to care, once they have that separation, everything becomes in full view. They understand with full clarity of what's happening and the implication, and they don't want that body, anything to happen to that body except put into the ground.
Do you know what happens to bodies that can't be buried? Like, for instance, those in Gaza right now?
Yeah. So I'm gonna, and I mean we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it.
One question.
Yeah.
So the neshama leaves the body at the exact moment that the body dies, or it takes some time. Because I remember there's certain traditions for the following days, like covering the mirrors or whatever, so to distract the soul.
Okay, so yeah, at the exact moment of death is the separation then. But like I said, the neshama hovers. The neshama hovers, and there are different things that happen over the course of time. First, there's 7 days, and then there's 30 days, and then there's the year, and the neshama has a whole process. And I said there is an obsession, sort of, and a confusion of like, where should the neshama go? I actually just read this recently by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan. There's a confusion, and how vast that confusion is and how long that confusion lasts is part of the judgment process of the neshama. Yeah, but but once the body is buried, then that neshama is free to go. It's not, but I wouldn't say it's an immediate. I mean, I'm not an expert, okay, but I wouldn't say that it's just an immediate. Okay, like you're up and it's over. It doesn't work like that. There is a whole process of getting into the next world, and the process that the neshama, the cleansing process that the neshama has to go through in order. But it's not even free to start doing that until that body gets buried in the ground. Okay, yeah.
But some neshamas, like, they never really leave here, or some get like reincarnated. Some kind of stick around, and then some get like rebirthed into new souls.
Would you mean stick around like right here in this world?
Right.
I cannot answer that. I wouldn't think that would be.
Your sources that spirits can stick around.
The Derech Hashem, the Ramchal talks about one of the punishments of one of the punishments is called karet, which is literally, it's translated as spiritual excision, spiritual cutting off. So there's different approaches to that in the Kabbalistic worlds. What actually happens to that? One approach is that the soul actually can be destroyed. That's not the majority opinion. The majority opinion is the soul isn't destroyed, but it actually floats and never reaches its ultimate destination. So the import of what we're talking about is that building our own reality in the next world. It's not like, oh, I did a 9 to 5 in this world and I punched in my time clock and then I have some different type of reward in the next thing. We're on the definitions class for the mitzvah being that commandment. It really means a connection. So we're writing our happy birthday on the balloon in this world, and then in the next world it expands. It's not a different thing. It's literally the same thing, the connection that we get in this world. But if we totally cut ourselves off in this world from our source, then it's just a natural outcome that we would be cut off from the source of the next one. That's the basic concept. But as soon as you get to the exact thing, what happens to the soul, it becomes a lot of different opinions about this. But that's the basic. So there can be shady other things floating around the world. We'd like to think that most neshamas make it, but I don't know. I don't know where the scorecard is.
Okay, thank you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Meaning that it's similar to what Danya was saying in terms of we create our own reality. You make the bed you lie in, right? Yeah. In other words, the more that we're connected to this world, that's what a mitzvah, itzav is language of connection. It's seven, it's even, it's connection. And so therefore that's The 613 are those opportunities of connection. The more that we build those connections in this world, it's not that we get some random reward and some random paycheck comes in. It's the natural outcome of this world. This is why this world is so important that we do. Because we're building our next world. Yeah. Don't forget your question, but I don't want to derail. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is where the Chevra Kadisha comes in. So the Chevra Kadisha, we said before, is an organization. It's the universal name for the organization. Any Jewish community you go to has a Chevra Kadisha. It must have a Chevra Kadisha. And the Chevra Kadisha always does the same thing. It takes care of the bodies for burial. We are a volunteer organization. Chances are that most people do not know who volunteers for the Chevra Kadisha. Okay, now you know me and now you know Adina, but it's quiet. We're like secret soldiers. And there's no social status, there's no honor, there's no accolades, nobody knows, and it's just quiet. And
Can I just point out, which is actually very unique, in the Jewish community, for something to be secret is like a big deal. Okay, there's something called Hak, which means like, okay, everyone knows everything. I happened to find out that I was speaking with someone that does Chevra Kadisha, has done it for like 20 years. I'm like, stop, no way. And it's like really under the radar. It's crazy.
Right, it's an amazing thing. I love it for that. It's an amazing thing. It's also great because there's no social status. I've met people who are fellow members of the Chevra Kadisha. They have money, they don't. They're prominent people in the community. They're not, you wouldn't even know. You just like go, they're the nicest, they are holy people who are coming and doing this work, just quiet. We don't talk about it afterwards. We go in, we do what we have to do. We wash our hands, we wish everybody simcha, get together at a simcha the next time, and that's it. We're done. We don't tell the family that we did it. We don't discuss it with each other, unless of course there's something that we need to discuss because we need to learn how to do it better in the future, or something was maybe a little bit traumatizing that we need to like talk through. But otherwise it's just, we did it, we're done. That's it. So the way it works is that when somebody passes away, they call the funeral home, and they tell the funeral home we would like to have our loved one taken care of according to the traditional way, and they call the Chevra Kadisha. Then we have Adina, it's her job. She gets a team together. The teams are 3 to 4 people, depending on what's needed. And it's, like I said, there's nothing convenient about it. It's, we need a tahara. It's called, the process that we do is called a tahara. The tahara takes about an hour. Tahara means purification. To purify, that's what we're doing. And it's a 3-step process, which we're going to talk about. And the tahara that has to happen before the funeral. So it's like we're the last people that deal with the body and see the body before the funeral. So yeah, they could call and be like, okay, it's 7:00 in the morning. We need a tahara before noon today. I'm like, okay, people work and people might not even see this message. And okay, but you know what? We have never missed a tahara. Every single time it comes together. Men do men, women do women. And both groups, they come together. They happen in the middle of the night. They happen at early hours in the morning. And whatever it takes, people will take off of work. It happens on a late Saturday night, on Erev Pesach, the day before Pesach, the day before the Seder, and everybody's busy. It's probably the busiest day of the year, and we're running out to take care of this because it's what has to be done, and we have to do it quickly and the best way that we can. Okay, so I'm going to describe what happens in a tahara. The team comes in, let's say 3 people. It's 3 steps. The first thing that we need to do is wash the body. Our goal is to get the body back to the way it was when it came into this world, the best that we can. So we start by taking off any nail polish or jewelry or bandages or dirt, soil, anything that's left on the body that they were not born with, the best that we can, we do. In the room, there is no talking. It is silent, it's reverent, it's holy. We are fully conscious that there is an neshama there. That's there. The person is there. They can see us working on the body. They can hear us working on the body. So we don't talk unless, of course, we need to talk about what it is that we're doing, because it would be less respectful if we're like a comedy show, like, we don't know what the other person's doing. We're a team, so we have to work as a team. But that's it. We don't talk about previous taharas. We don't talk about any other experience. We can talk about that later. When you're in the room, we're just talking about what we're doing. I'm not sure what to do here. Can you come and see? That would be fine. But it's a feeling of just of holiness and awe, and we have a job to do. So the first thing we do is we come in and we're gonna clean. The body stays covered, and we only uncover the parts that we're working on at the time. We never have the body just fully uncovered and laying there, except at one point in the tahara, which I'll tell you, but it's quick. Otherwise, we're washing the face. We just uncover the face, cover the face, move down to the right side. We uncover the arm, wash the arm, uncover the stomach, wash the stomach, and we just work our way all the way down. So we do the right side first, always the right side. We do the right side first, then the left side, and then we turn the body a little bit so that we can reach the back of the body, and we do the right side of the back and then the left side of the back. We never turn the body upside down. They're never laying on their stomach. It is always with dignity and respect. That's the first part. Before each part, before these three parts, we have prayers that we say. We're praying for the person. That's what we're doing there, that they should be accepted, that they should have a good judgment, that every step of the way should go smooth for them. So that's the whole first part of it. After that comes the actual tahara, where we're working on, we did a physical cleansing, and now we're doing a spiritual cleansing. So ideally, we have a mikvah. A mikvah is a ritual bath. It's a place of transition. So somebody who is not Jewish and then is going to become Jewish, converting, the last thing they do is go into the mikvah, and they get purified, they come out. It's a place of transition. So there is one funeral home here in Chicago Jewish Funerals in Skokie. They have a mikvah, and that's the ideal situation when we can use it. If they don't have, like many don't have, then there's a way that we can like mock what the way a mikvah works. We have a process that we use buckets, 3 buckets, and we have a certain amount of water that has to go in, and the water has to be pouring, flowing over the body all at the same time, a certain amount of water, because the body has to be submerged in that amount of water. So it kind of just mimics the way a mikvah works, and it's the best we can do, and it is totally accepted to do it that way, and it's fine. So that's the only time that the body is uncovered. We do it quickly. We just take the sheet off. Are you ready? Go. We put the body into the mikvah. We say Tahorahi 3 times, which means she is pure. Tahorahi, Tahorahi, Tahorahi. She is pure, she is pure, she is pure. She comes out. We cover her right away, and that's it. That's the tahara process. That's the main thing. After that, we're gonna now we dry the body. Yeah, we have to dry the body. We put a sheet over it right afterwards, and we kind of like pat her dry so that she's dry. We never rub the skin, or we don't want to like disturb anything, so we're gentle. But yeah, it needs to be dry, because when you're dressing in the tachrichim, the shrouds, it needs to be dry. It's much harder to dress a person that's wet. So that's the third thing that we do, is we dress the body in the tachrichim. I brought a set, and I'm going to show it to you afterwards. I'm not going to hold it up right now. If it's traumatic for you, or you feel like you don't want to see it, that's also okay. They are almost identical for the men and for the women. There are just slight differences. There's 6 articles of clothing. It actually mimics what the Kohen Gadol wears, the high priest in the time of the temple. It starts with a bonnet, and it covers their face. Then the next thing we put on are the pants. They're sewn at the bottom. That goes on. Then there's a shirt that goes over. There's a tunic, so it's just like a longer top that goes maybe about towards the knees. There's a belt. And then the women have an apron. The men don't have an apron, but the men get buried in their talis. So if they can get buried in the talis that they wore when they were alive, that's a good thing. No, it is a good thing. We try to bury them, in their talis. The men also have a kittel. Yeah, a kittel is it's a white robe that they wear. Men wear it like on Yom Kippur. At the Pesach Seder, they wear it when they get married. It's times when they are angelic and holy and pure. And if they have a kittel that they wore in their life, they also get buried in their kittel. It goes over the tunic that comes with the tachrichim. Yeah, so those are the 2 things. They have those 2 things that get added, and the women have an apron, and the men don't. The tachrichim are made out of an organic fabric, cotton or linen, muslin. There's no metal at all on it. There's no snaps. There's no buttons. There's no zippers, nothing like that. They're handmade, hand sewn. Everything is tied with a drawstring. So it just gets pulled tight and tied. There's a special way that we tie the knots as well. And that's it. When that's done, then we gently put the body into the casket. The casket is different than most in the traditional Jewish way. It is plain pine box. Nothing ornate. as plain as can be. There's no lining inside. There's no padding. There's no pillows. The main thing is that it's wood. And that's because our goal is to get them into the ground and decomposing so that they are becoming one with the earth again as fast as we can. The last piece of the tachrichim that are in here is called the sovev. It's a white sheet. And I just want to give you a visual of what happens. It kind of mimics a birth. That when a baby is born, the baby is taken and washed and then dressed and then swaddled and then given to the mother. And that's what we do here. We take the person, we wash them clean, we dress them, we swaddle them. It looks just like a swaddle. We swaddle them, and then we send them back home. Okay. We are the last people to see the person. We ask them forgiveness when we put them in. If we, on behalf of the whole Chevra Kadisha, we ask them if we had any, if we had any improper thoughts, if we missed something, if we made any mistakes, and we say a little prayer for them to go and be okay. And then we close the casket, and that's it. It doesn't get opened again after that. I just want to interject here that since October 7th, we have added something. All of the Chevra Kadishas were asked to do this. It's a beautiful thing. It's become, it's really been a meaningful thing. That, and to your question, about the people who didn't get burials, there were so many people who didn't get a kever Yisrael. They didn't get a proper Jewish burial in Israel. And so we say, after each one that we do, we say a parak of Tehillim, we say the Psalms that has to do with obliterating our enemies, and we ask Hashem to keep the peace. And we say out loud, we're doing this mitzvah of doing this tahara should be in the merit of all those in Israel who did not merit. And it should help their souls, and it should help them. It just feels like the right thing to do, considering
all around the world, all the Chevra Kadishas.
It was there is NASC is a national organization of Chevra Kadishas, National Association of Chevra Kadishas, and they put this statement out to all the different Chevra Kadishas, and I know of many Chevra Kadishas who have adopted this or some form of this practice. Yeah, so everyone's doing it. We have it on a laminated sheet. We say the prayers together, and we say out loud that we're doing it for this purpose, and it should just help for all those who didn't merit it. Okay, what I didn't mention before was that all the laws pertaining to this, we just talked from the time of death until the time of burial, is all for the benefit of the deceased. It is not for the benefit of the mourners or the family or the loved ones or the people left behind. So we try to get them into the earth as fast as we can, not because it's sensitive to the family, it's because it's what's best for the person. All of the things that we do, burying the person is what's best for the deceased. It doesn't matter if it's what's best for the family or the loved ones or the people left behind. Only once the person gets buried, then we shift our focus and we start doing what's best for the mourners. Because as we said, there really wasn't a death. The body died, but that person's there, and so we are still doing that last kindness for that person. They're still there, and they can't help themselves. Okay, so I wanted just to talk about the burial in earth, because this is a big topic. It used to be that Jews did not get cremated. It was Jews didn't eat pork, Jews didn't get cremated. And in 1963, the Catholic Church lifted the ban on cremation and made it okay. And since then, once that happened, then of course it creeped into our culture as well. And I'm going to tell you a horrifying statistic is that 1 out of 2 Jews in America is being cremated. Currently, every 16 minutes in America, there's a Jew being cremated, which is a horrifying tragedy. Especially, you can understand that now based on what I just told you about the person and why it's important for that person to be buried. Cremation is like a huge business. It's a big, big moneymaker, and they do great marketing, and they sell it as just a very peaceful, feel-good kind of a thing. But if you just Google a little bit, you will find out what actually happens in a cremation. And it's an extremely violent process, actually. So when we bury people, we bury treasure. We bury things that we love, right? And burning, we burn things that we want to erase. We burn things that we want to obliterate. We burn things that we never wanted to exist to begin with. And in cremation, in the actual process, they may tell you that it's very warm and kind, and you can have parts of the loved one and you can share it with your family and they can be with you. But what actually happens is, I'm going to be a bit graphic at this moment, they cut out from the body anything that can't go into the oven. So like a pacemaker or artificial hip and things like that, they cut it out and they stick the body into an oven. It's a 2,000-degree oven. The process takes anywhere between 2 hours and 4 hours for it to happen. And basically after that, everything just melts, turns to ash and charred bone. Then they take it out from there with a shovel, just like, imagine like a pizza oven, just like with a shovel, and then they stick it into another machine that breaks up all the pieces. It's loud, it bangs, it just breaks everything up until you end up with just ash. The ash has no DNA left. It's nothing. That person is gone. There is no DNA left in that ash at all. You end up with 2 to 5 pounds of nothing, of ash. So it's violent. It's a hard thing, and it's obliterating. And that's the main thing. We have different arguments that people like to make for cremation, like, yeah, but it's more eco-friendly than burying in the ground. You can't put people in the ground and caskets in the ground, but what about our earth? And the answer to that is that perhaps it's true that if you have a metal casket and you've embalmed the person and they are now in the ground, it is leaching toxins and things into the ground. But if you ask environmentalists, is it best to do cremation? They'll tell you no. Cremation is horrible to the environment. It's sending that heavy machinery and burning things and toxins into the air. That's not good for the environment. They say we need a green burial. What is green burial? Green burial, what do you know? It's Jewish burial. It's everything organic. Wood completely decomposes. The bodies are buried in clothing that completely decompose. The bodies decompose. It's exactly what the environmentalists would want. Another argument that people have is that, oh, like, land is for the living. Like, why are we using up all this land to put people in? Like, that's not what it is. But have you ever driven down the highway, like especially Ohio or Iowa? And it's just land and land and land. There's plenty of land to be had for everybody. You can build one less Walmart, and there's plenty of land for everybody. And for you, give yourself the gift of a little spot on this earth to mark your value and where you lived. And actually, I read a statistic, and I'm going to take it at face value, but it says that it would take, if everybody in America would choose burial, it would take 10,000 years to use up 1% of the land.
Wow.
I don't know. That's what I read. Another argument, of course, which we said, really burial has nothing to do with the family. That's not part of it. The burial is needed for the soul and for the person. But we'll just have to say, just for the argument's sake, is that when people do bury somebody, there is that sense of closure, and they have a place where that person is, and it's just a sense of like, this person lived, this person is still here. I can go back and visit. My children and grandchildren will always know that this person is here. So again, it's not the reason to do it, but it's an added benefit. And there's testimonials of people who have chosen cremation and thought it was going to be what gave them the most comfort, and afterwards they had such regret because they felt like, my daughter never existed. She was a nothing. It's gone. There's no place on earth and anybody will ever remember her except for this little jar that'll get thrown out one day. There's people who like to say that I love the idea of being able to give my family like a piece of me that they'll have forever. And like we said, there's no DNA in there at all. That little urn of little ashes, it's nothing. You want to give people something of you, write them a letter. Write them a letter before you die. Give them something. Just give them something of you that they will always have and cherish. Then the main argument is about cost. It is cheaper to cremate. Burial is expensive. However, cost should never be a reason why somebody chooses cremation. There's all different ways to do it. There's prepaid funerals. We do very simple funerals. We don't have flowers. You don't have to have it in a funeral home. You can do a graveside. And we're Jews. We take care of each other. That's what we do. And we have organizations and we have cemeteries and we have something called Mace Mitzvah, which is somebody dies and they have no money and they might not even have any family. And guess what? The Chevra Kadisha comes in, like we always do, and the funeral homes are more than gracious, and nobody gets unburied. Nobody has to stay because of money. Never, never turned away. I want to just mention one more thing that is just a huge comfort that I heard. We said that your eternity, you are you forever, and you can never change that anymore, right? You lose that opportunity once you die, and you don't have your physical body anymore. You can't do anything. So the way you are when you die is how you'll be forever. But there is one concept that we have. It's called aliyas neshama. Aliyah means to go up, and neshama, we said, is your soul, your divine essence. We can do that. We can send gifts to our loved ones who have passed away. And I heard this, and it was like a game changer for me. What does that mean? How could that possibly be, right? The souls, they have to live on the dividends of this world. They can't do anything for themselves anymore. So if I'm struggling with my patience, let's say, and I'm about to like lose my temper, and then I go, instead of losing my temper, I'm going to count to 10 because dad, I'm going to send him a gift. And I'm going to bring good into this world because I'm thinking about him. In honor of him and his merit, I'm going to keep my cool. And then I do. So then I just brought good into this world because I thought about my father-in-law. So now, well, he's not the same as he was anymore. He just has good credited to his name. He didn't do it physically, but it was only because of him did I bring good into the world. I sent him a gift. And I said, I love you. And he has it now. And that elevates him. Anytime you give tzedakah in somebody's memory charity, or you sponsor something in memory of somebody that's going to a charity, or like I said, you're working on your own personal character development, any good that you do, it's a gift. You're sending gifts. I picture, like, I don't know if you've gone to sleepaway camp or whatever, but like, when it's mail time, like the letters, and they're giving out the letters, and all the kids come and they're like, did I get one? Did I get one? Did I get one? I picture it like this. It's totally made up. I'm not saying it's like this, but maybe all the souls and the neshamas are all gathering like, did anybody remember me? Did anybody send me anything? Did I get anything? How incredible is that, to be able to keep saying, I love you, and thank you for everything you did for me. I mean, to me, it's very powerful. So, to wrap up, I want to say that you don't have a soul. You are a soul and you have a body. Our souls live forever, which means that we live forever. The way we live matters. Burial is every Jew's right. It doesn't matter how you've lived your life. If you lived your life as a Jew or not as a Jew, everybody deserves to die as a Jew. And burial is the kindest choice to the body, the soul, and the planet. Are there any questions? Yes.
You speak somewhat confidently about the afterlife, and obviously we don't know for a fact what happens. Where is some of that coming from? Is this from a Torah perspective? Like, how do you know that the soul is right there listening to you? And by the way, my other question was, have you ever really felt like this presence next to you, and that reaffirmed your belief in that system?
Okay, so that's a great question. Research, it's all Torah based. Like I said, I read a book by Aryeh Kaplan. There's a book called Gesher HaChaim. That's like the encyclopedia of death and dying. And I've learned from people. We have in Judaism, we have a Masorah, where things get passed from generation to generation and person to person. And that's it. I am sure that Rabbi Garfinkel could share even more about where these things come from. Can I tell you for a fact that this is the only way it is? No, because in Judaism, there's never only just one way. But this is Torah based. So that's the view that I'm presenting. As far as feeling the neshama in the room, I would say we're aware of it. Did I ever have any like heebie-jeebie creepy thing happen to me? No. But there is sort of a heaviness and a sense of awe and reverence that is in the room. Whether we create it because we are aware of what's going on, or it's there because there's a person lying there. When we deal with the body, so like I told you that we have to turn the body, we have to roll the body sort of over so that we can get to the back of it. The way we do it is we put our arm under the head, and we put like our arm under the body, and we kind of like roll like this. And I like to stand by the head when I can, because I feel like I'm cradling her. This is a real person. This was somebody's bubby. This was somebody's baby. People love this person. I don't know them, but every single person deserves that love. And so I feel like the neshama that's there in the room that this body belonged to, it feels warm and it feels right for them. So that's the best I can give you. Okay.
So one quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to do it in the traditional way that you're saying some people couldn't afford it? I'm just curious, like.
Okay, so everything that the Chevra Kadisha does that I just told you, free. Completely free.
But otherwise, it'd be like 5,000.
Well, there's funeral costs with the funeral home that I have nothing to do with. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speak and tell you about how much a funeral costs. Funerals are expensive, but I think that it depends on exactly what you're doing for it. As far as everything that we do, the Chevra Kadisha getting called, the Chevra Kadisha coming in, washing, doing the tahara, taking care of the body, putting the body in the casket, we don't charge ever.
So someone's giving you the Chevra Kadisha that all the gowns of who's someone paid for that and then they give it to you.
Yes, the family does pay for the tachrichim. If they can't pay for the tachrichim, then the funeral home eats the cost. But yeah, I mean, this doesn't belong to the Chevra Kadisha. This belongs to the funeral home. We don't bring it with us. It's there. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Have you been to traditional Orthodox Jewish funerals?
So these are only Orthodox.
It's the Orthodox way, meaning the traditional way that it's done before any changes were made.
I was like, oh my God, I've been breaking all these rules.
You just never been to an Orthodox funeral, neither have I.
Okay, so these are just Orthodox.
However,
Jewish.
most, I would tell you, most,
Coke classic.
almost all of the taharas that we do are not on Orthodox people. They're not people who lived a life of as an Orthodox Jew at all. They did not keep Shabbos, and they wanted to die as a Jew, and that's what we do. When you think about how many Orthodox Jews there are compared to how many Jews there are just in the world, so just statistically speaking, we're going to do more on people who are not Orthodox. Most of the ones we do are not. They're not people from the Orthodox community. Absolutely not. They just do it according to I think we have to take out the word Orthodox and we have to put in the word traditional, the way it's always been done.
I think she's getting caught up on, are those people then saying, please don't, I've been buried in the traditional way, there's going to be no open casket. Like, does the family go to that? Like, I don't know.
Once the Chevra Kadisha gets called in, yeah, that's part of it. The casket doesn't get open again. They're wearing tachrichim. I mean, we can open it. Their faces are covered. They're wearing full white. I'm sure that any of the people that she saw are not dressed that way. They're, yeah.
Nice makeup.
Yeah, I honestly, even my uncle that passed away in January, we went to that. These are the two Jewish funeral homes in the UK.
That's everything.
Now I'm like really getting over the crowd. They're breaking the rules, not really knowing it.
I'll address that, but I want to.
Okay, if you'd like to. Okay. I have here, just if you want, this is an amazing booklet. It talks about choosing cremation versus burial. It has facts, it has information, it has resources. It's done beautifully. It's done by the organization called Last Kindness. It's great. I did put in here from our Chevra Kadisha in Chicago, we have a letter that it's meant for people who want to be able to express to their family their wishes for when they die. It's always a good idea to take care of this beforehand, because otherwise the family, at an emotionally charged time, it can get kind of sticky. Family wants one thing, or a different family member wants another thing, or they think, hey, you know what, just the easiest and cheapest way is just to cremate, let's just do it and be done. This gives the person a chance. They read it, they sign it, they write it, they give it to their attorney, to their rabbi, to their family members, whoever it is that's going to be taking care of it. This is not a legal document. We do have legal documents as well. Generally, you don't need a legal document. It's mostly just, if they know what the person wants, then they go with it. But this is for you to take if you're interested, or if you have family members who you think would be interested in reading it. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Our contact info is on the bottom of this paper. The contact info in the booklet is to Last Kindness, which is not here in Chicago, but they can also absolutely help you and answer any questions. So if you're interested in seeing the tachrichim, I can show you what that looks like.
Just one question. If whenever someone dies, the family calls the Heber Kadisha first, and they will take care of the body from that moment, or they will just call when the Heber Kadisha.
Right. So great question. Yeah, so that's a great question. Just logistically, how does it work? Yeah. Okay, so here in Chicago, the funeral homes do everything. So you would call the funeral home. The funeral home is going to be responsible for transporting the body from the hospital or from their home or for wherever the person is to the funeral home. And the funeral home calls us, and we come in. We don't usually ever deal with the families unless there's some reason that we need to. Yeah.
The funeral home already knows that this person requested to be buried this way.
Yeah, the family, it's such an emotionally charged, heavy time. It's best if there's just like one person dealing with the family and not all kinds of people mixing in and whatever. So it's just, it all gets streamlined through that way. And they say, they ask, they have a meeting. The funeral home will meet with the family and they ask, do you want a tahara? Do you want the Chaver Kadisha? And then that's it.
I want to show Stephanie, I want to piggyback on this. It's an important thing, and I unfortunately come upon a lot.
Okay, this is the Sovev. It's just a big white sheet. I don't think that you need to see that. Okay, this is the shirt. This is the shirt.
Is this the same for man and woman?
Same for the man and woman. Same for man and woman. Okay. These are the pants. You see they're big. There's a drawstring, right? There's a drawstring here, so it comes around. And it's just big. It's obviously not meant to fit. It's a one size fits all. They do have, if the person is, extra large, then there is an extra large size that needs, but generally, it's this. The pants are the same for the men and the women.
These are linen?
This is cotton. This is cotton. The linen ones, the muslin ones, they're a thicker fabric. They're more of almost like, they just seem more organic in a way. They're like more of a fibrous fabric. They're thicker. They're more of an off-whitish sort of a color. They're a little bit harder to use actually. They don't slide and they're not as smooth, but they're probably a little bit better than the cotton. This is the bonnet. This goes over the back of the head. This part comes forward over the face, and then it gets tied. It gets twisted in the back and tied up over in the front. Yeah, so it sort of goes like this. Like this is where the face would be. You would think that it's like this and the face would be sticking out of the hole here, but it's not. It's big enough that it comes over. It just kind of comes over the head and the face. I mean, I don't want to try it on and show you, but that's how.
Why is the belly covered?
Everything is covered. The whole body is covered. Yeah. The face is actually, the face is the window into the soul. Like the face is, right. So that's why we actually take extra precaution to cover the face the whole time that we're doing the tahara. The only time it gets open is really just when we're working on it, and we cover that face as much as we can. It's kind of like, it's the window to the soul. Okay, and here, this is the tunic, or the kittel, it's called. You see it's longer than the shirt. It has a collar. It goes over. And again, it gets tied. It gets tied on.
Where are all the pockets for all the money that we take with us?
Oh yeah, no pockets, nothing to take with us.
Rubies.
Or now.
Oh, right. Torn out. Doesn't need pockets. Nice.
So can you
Nice,
add-
Michael.
So you said you can have the talus or the kittel. Did you add anything else in
Nothing goes in.
like your little blankie from when you were a child?
So let's think about that for a second, okay? Let's think about that, because we do sometimes get requests for that. They want their teddy bear in there. They want sometimes they're even like spiritual things. They want their sitter in there or something like that. But the person who's making that request, when they're making it, they're alive. They are constrained by their physical understanding and their physical being. Once their body and soul separate and there's complete clarity, you realize, I don't need those things. Those things are not coming with me. and it's not important anymore, right? It's physical people, and oftentimes the things that are going in the casket are because the family members feel like it's important. She would have wanted to be with her blanket. She's going to be cold. She would want that. It's all the physical mindset, the way that we think. But at that time, when the soul has complete clarity, it's obvious that that isn't something that they need or want.
I agree with your point. I think the Kindle makes sense because I'm assuming there's a lot of reasons for it, but the Taoists seem, why then the Taoists?
So that's a great question. I don't really know. Do you know?
So this really very
She
interesting.
just said it doesn't matter. Sorry,
No. I will tell you a crazy custom that great Torah scholars are sometimes buried with their stenders, with their lectern, with their why? Because they did not wait, like all of us, don't waste a drop of time in our lives. Use every spare second checking our studying Torah and focusing on everything that's important and giving people their full. And literally, they will be buried. It's not common. Someone was like really great, and even then, not always. But that was a custom that because the stender, the lectern, I call it in English, would testify for them in the next world, because it was spiritually saying that Hashem, look, I'm here. I'm being buried with him because I'm testifying. I can attest to the fact that he exists.
I actually know somebody who, a very big person, and a very big rabbi, somebody who learns a lot of Torah. He actually had his desk where he learns. He had his desk taken apart and made into a casket for him. That's the wood. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank God he hasn't used it yet. Wood and casket, totally wood. It's wood. It's wood. It's all wood. Yeah, that's what he wanted. So, there you go.
I want to address this. First of all, give it to Danya Miller. I have been. Thank you. Unfortunately, called, I don't know how many times, by young professionals, students, parents, rabbi. And I sense from the intense tone of the message that probably going to be some end of life issue, and what is I call back, and it's in Hebrew. There's a perfect word for it. It's called a balagan. Balagan means like it's all messed up, and there's stress and pressure, and someone's on hospice, and they have an hour left, and what are we going to do? And Aunt Sally says that they have got to do cremation because that's what Grandma would have wanted. And you have Uncle Bill, who said, or whatever, says, absolutely not over my dead body. Bad joke, right? But it's like becomes a warfare at the end. Okay, that was even bad for me. But Sarah, okay, but and what do? And then there are the cases which happen a lot also, is that a young professional will call and they'll know the classic Jewish approach to burial. And they're outnumbered. And the whole family wants cremation. Aside from the totally not halachic, not Jewish law issue of what happened to our people during World War II, if that's not a compelling reason enough for us not to end up as ashes. I'm just deciding the halachic things that we talked about. But aside from that, so what I'm saying is, for sure for yourselves, you should write what you want. But grandma, grandpa, relatives, these are very uncomfortable discussions. But I am telling you, they will thank you. They will have so much gratitude for you that you were the religious fanatic, okay, that actually stood up for them when it was unpopular. Because I guarantee you, when that whole generation, the next one that's saying, oh, Aunt Betty wouldn't have wanted this, right? And they go upstairs, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that to Aunt Betty. You're the one voice of sanity in the family that actually is doing what's right. And so it's, there's a great opportunity for all of us, but really,
inspiration that you've given us tonight is amazing. To inspire us to have those difficult, tough conversations, because as tough as they are now, the decisions are forever. They're literally forever. And that person will be so grateful to you. Michael, yeah, Michael.
Actually, I'm not supposed to you guys that this is a good refreshment.
Yeah. Right. Maybe you.
Yeah, I mean, they're actually much less uncomfortable than they are, the conversations. I've read that soldiers are buried as they died. I didn't know that. That's a lot. Yeah, we've heard about that.
All right. So we'll. Okay. So there's an issue. It's always been an issue. The goal is that and again, by the way, all of the halachot, I'm not an expert in burial. It's like a niche, but the basic ones are that you really, every body part should be buried down to the blood. And so there's not officially related to the Chevra Kadisha, but there's a group in Israel called Zaka. Classically, if you ask Rabbi Broner about it, there was a division in the army that still is, that deals with death and dying and the bodies, especially at wartime. It's very traumatic. And they started, unfortunately, when in Israel, they needed it for civilian terror attacks on civilians. So for whatever reason, they didn't want the army coming each time. So each city developed an organization affiliated with the police called Zaka. Okay, and they literally are the ones, when I was in Israel in the early 2000s, body parts off trees, and you talk about a suicide bomber, seats. The novel halachic psak, the halachic decision that happened after October 7th, was there was so much body parts, blood, etc., that was so entrenched in the actual cars that the chief rabbi of Israel gave a halachic decision that the cars should be buried. Now, I haven't been there. I've seen the cars in stacks. I don't know eventually if they're going to bury them or not, but because you couldn't extricate all of that. But it goes back to what Danya was talking about we see that a body that houses something holy becomes holy in of itself. If you just feel that a human being is just a combination of chemicals, a lot of things talk about to an atheist, right? So really, human beings just chemicals? That's all it is? Okay, so take a dead body and it's holy. The body's holy. It's absolutely holy. And the level of respect that Torah and Judaism gives to it is unbelievable. So anyway, yes, it is worth having. So I remember my Rosh Hashiva of blessed memory, Mendel Weinbach, always used to tell us he was a medic in the army 50 years ago. And there was a soldier who unfortunately was in a tank that was hit, I believe, in the Yom Kippur War. I'm too graphic, but basically it was impossible to separate the body from the tank. They soldered off the piece of the tank and they buried him. How did they know that? Because as part of the burial, they were carrying the casket, which weighed hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And only the story came out later, because why would a casket weigh that much is because literally a part of the tank was because they couldn't get. That would be too graphic, but that's an example of that. Yeah.
What if is it a really bad car accident and that same concept exists? I mean, sorry,
Yeah, I mean, again,
Can I speak to it?
Please. Yeah, please.
So that happens, right? You have somebody who was in a horrible car accident and the car went up in flames. So then we actually have a special unit of our Chevra Kadisha that's called Chesed Shel Emes. It's a few specific people. They have special equipment, and they're the ones who get called in for these kinds of tragic times, and they get what they can. They take everything out. I know somebody who was very, very close with us. He was in one of those accidents, and he was burned like that. And the head of the Chevra Kadisha had to go in. This was in Milwaukee. It wasn't here. They had to go in and deal with the car, and then what happens at the Tahara? They put the charred remains, whatever there was, in a bag. There's a body bag, and we do what we can. We obviously can't we can't wash. You can't do a tahara in the tradition, the way that we'd like to do it, but we do whatever we can. We say the prayers. We sometimes lay the tachrichim on top of the bag. We had to do that in COVID, actually, at the height of COVID, when things were very bad and we weren't exactly sure what was. If we knew the person was positive for COVID when they died, this was, again, very short, but we wouldn't open the bag, really. We kind of opened the end of it so that like air could get in and the body could decompose, but we didn't do it. So we do what we can. We do the best that we can under the circumstances. But everyone deserves to go through, have those prayers said, do the best that we can. We do as best as we can. And like I said, we have a unit here in Chicago that does it. Very quiet, and thank God. We don't need, if somebody gets hit by a car, there's blood on the street. Who's coming to clean that up? We don't want the city to clean that up. That blood, any blood that flowed at the time of death, that we save always.
I know this is crazy, but I take this wherever I go. I wasn't even planning on showing this. This is the cemetery in Morocco, in Fez, Morocco. I take it wherever I go because this is the story of Salika. Ever heard? We Ashkenazi. I've never heard this woman. She died als Kiddush Hashem, which basically, she was basically kidnapped and said that she was going to had to convert to Islam or die. And she had several opportunities to get out of it. And she said, no, I'm going to die as a Jew. And so she had a special grave. So here's the cemetery in Morocco, Fez. Sorry, it's a little bit used. And so she, for me, the reason why I print this out and I take it literally wherever I go, except on Shabbos, is because she died as a Jew because she knew what it meant to live as a Jew. And I think that's really one of the main things we want to get out tonight. You die as a Jew correctly because you've lived as a Jew, plugged in to Torah and mitzvahs and a Jewish community. The Jews who live so far away, they don't have Hatzalah, they don't have kosher restaurants, and they don't have the Chaver Kadisha. Like, I mean, it's an amazing thing what it means to be part of the Jewish community. We take care of each other from cradle to grave. And so that's the point. We got to double down on what it means to live as Jews. Because once we know how to live as Jews, then we'll die as Jews. Okay, I want everyone to put your hands together for an amazing, for Danya Miller. Thank you.